everyone to the Trust the Plan podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jim.
And it is the Feel Good edition. Jim, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Yeah, we got a special guest in studio today. Evan Chopp is a friend, is a client, is an overall knowledgeable guy about a lot of things. So we invited him in studio today to talk about some interesting topics.
Which is?
Points, credit card points, airline miles.
So I like the intro.
Yeah.
An overall knowledgeable guy. I like it. I think that's trademarked, by the way. I think
he's the points guy.
I think that's trademarked. Yeah. You know, I don't think we can go down that road.
We'll have to come up with a new nickname.
Edit that out. But.
One of the points guys. Okay.
Right.
So Evan, you said this is a hobby for you. So can you kind of explain how that started and what you like about it?
Yeah, I think we might get an opportunity to talk a little bit about my personal finance too, but in this element of I started to learn a lot about personal finance, and then I love travel. So when I started to kind of feel like I was learning all the different elements of personal finance, this became a hobby, but it became a different element of personal finance and how do I maximize my dollars to allow me and my family to travel more. And then I started getting into all these different pieces and areas and learning more, and it's like with knowledge comes power, and then I was able to untap a lot of things for me and my family. And now I'm kind of more comfortable sharing it.
Cool. So when we're talking about travel, we think about points, miles, right? So does it all start with credit cards, or is it all about the airlines or the hotel companies? Where do you start?
Yeah, really good. Okay, so this is a legal disclaimer part for at least Evan to make Evan feel better. Number one, I'm not a professional in this by any means. I'm not a tax person. I'm not a financial advisor. This is a hobby, and I just like to now teach people about it to be able to kind of do some of the things in my family. But there are some other things too that I'd like to get into just quick, Nick, is this isn't a hobby for people who experience or are in credit card debt. And I know it's a massive problem. We have $1 trillion in credit card debt these days. But you will never make enough points on a credit card to be able to make up for a 20% interest rate on a credit card. So I just want to make sure I kind of a little bit throw that out there. I even did some math just quickly around, $10,000, invested on a credit card, invested over a 16-year period of time would be $103,000. But if you just paid that off, $10,000 in credit card debt, it'd take you 16 years to pay it off. So $10,000 invested, $103,000. $10,000 on credit card debt, you pay $30,000 in interest. So this is not a hobby for those who are experiencing credit card debt.
I do like that disclaimer because I think people are looking for excuses to use credit cards and to spend money, right, and to buy stuff maybe they shouldn't or can't afford. So I think that this is a great topic, but important to realize it's not an excuse to get down in a hole that you shouldn't be in.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then the other one, too, that I like that Jim and Nick talk about all the time is lifestyle creep. And again, this isn't a hobby necessarily for people in lifestyle creep because when you have that credit card, you're trying to hit some of the bonuses that I'll talk about. Again, you could find yourself justifying to pay more or pay for something and put it on a credit card to hit this bonus. Again, $200 invested over 40 years with just an 8% interest rate, $700,000 almost in accumulated wealth over 40 years, right? So I'd much rather have you invest the $200 consistently month over month over month and let that money go to work for you, then have you start to do some of these pieces in the hobby. So you're in credit card debt, you struggle with lifestyle creep, this isn't really a thing for you.
Evan, I think maybe you could have a second career as a financial advisor. What do you think?
I know.
It's part of a possible part of second careers.
Yeah. So the disclaimers are out there. We know that we can invest and grow, but we do spend,
yep.
Right? And so I imagine part of your strategy is using the card and paying it off each month.
100%. That is the whole concept for those of us that pay our credit cards off consistently, for those of us that have active saving means, this is all about how do you get more for your dollar and more back for your dollar. And, there's kind of three things that I was going to go through and at least give everybody on the podcast today a little bit of a sample of. And it's first, how are you earning more for your dollar? So the concept would be, how are you earning, what I like to say is a minimum 2% back on each of my dollars. The second part is, and this will kind of convert to the points and miles piece, how am I earning 2 cents back per point when I'm redeeming my miles or points? And then there's this other element of easy executable strategies that sometimes tie into points and miles, but sometimes just tie into cash back, because cash back helps you afford the hobby too. Again, everything in this hobby doesn't ultimately end up being free. There's fees, taxes, or sometimes you choose to pay for rooms or flights. Having money or cash back is always a good thing. So those are kind of the three different buckets that I was going to spend some time walking everybody through.
All right, so how do we earn 2% then?
Yeah, great question. So the very first thing that you'll hear a lot about in this hobby is this element of like credit card bonuses. So you'll see these advertised all the time. And again, the credit card companies, it's a very lucrative business for them, for the people who don't pay off on time and are paying the interest. So credit card companies are always trying to acquire new customers. So if you think about this concept of how am I earning 2 cents back, per dollar that I spend, the first and easiest way is a credit card and a sign up. So I'll give you 2 examples that I kind of put out there really quick. One, it would be the Delta American Express Platinum. I know we're in the Michigan area. Delta's a hub here, so Delta is a really popular card for a lot of people. So that would be a very popular card. Right now, that has a $50,000 bonus on $3,000 spent. So that would give you 17 points per dollar spent. You'd earn 53,000 miles on $3,000 spent. So a new credit card bonus easily over that 2 cents per point. The next would be the just the American Express Gold, so a non-branded card. This is what I'll get into this concept of transferable currency eventually. But the American Express Gold right now, that is a $60,000 bonus on $6,000 spent. So that off the front gets you 11 points per dollar, or you're getting essentially 11 cents back per dollar. So those are 2 different ones. So one's $3,000 spend, 53,000 Delta miles. The other is 66,000 American Express points, which I'll get into, on $6,000 spend.
So do you do this every year, like open up a new card and then close the old one to get the new sign-up bonuses?
Great question, and that's where it gets into a handful of different things. There are, when you get deeper into this hobby, there are rules. Like, for example, Chase, for example, has a rule where you can't open 5 new credit cards in 2 years or in 24 months. So if you were above that, it doesn't matter what your credit score is, they would automatically decline you because Chase has this different rule. There's others that it's within 30 or 45 days, but each credit card company, that's getting a little bit more into the nitty gritty. Yeah. When you start to get deeper into the hobby, you need to be aware of some of these rules.
Yeah.
But that's one of the more famous ones is like what they call the Chase 524 rule.
Okay. 524.
Yeah.
5 cards in 24 months.
Okay.
Yep.
And then on that, I think it's an important thing to know. Again, another thing is you get in this hobby, there's what people reference P2 or player 2, because you can run this hobby with your husband and wife, or, Jen allows me to play the hobby with her, because essentially it's 2 different credit portfolios. So there's a lot of cards that are on my name, some are in her name.
Okay.
When you get deep into the hobby, you start to play this in what they call 2-player mode. But the reason I brought that up is another just like myth out there. Both our credit scores are over 800. Your credit openings is a factor on your credit report. There's a lot more about being knowledgeable about your credit report, your dollars spent compared to your dollars open, your payment history. All those things are way bigger factors than the actual inquiries.
Gotcha. So then now you have all these points, right? So you can cash them in efficiently or inefficiently. What do you recommend?
Before we get to that, there's one thing. So I played out a scenario on this Delta card and the Amex card really quick. So stay with me on this for a second, because this is where it gets important. The Delta card and a lot of cards out there, as you get into it, they give you on average like 1 cent back per point or 1% back. So that's what I'm saying. We're trying to avoid situations where we're getting a cent back per dollar and we're trying to get that 2% or 2 points back. So on Delta, fortunately, on gas and groceries, they at least give you 2% back. So that's still hitting that with the Delta Platinum card. You're at least getting 2% back. But the American Express Gold, that gives you 4% back. So now let's take the sign-up bonus. We got 53,000 here. We got 66,000 in the Amex Gold. Now let's say we spend 10 on groceries in a year. The American Express, I'm now only up to 73,000 points with Delta because I'm only getting 2% back on that. The American Express Gold, which is one of my favorite cards for people who spend money on dining and groceries, because that's getting you 4 times back. So you're getting 40,000 points on that 10K spend, so 4% rather than the 2% back on that. So this is a way of each card has different bonus categories, and that's why people would choose to have multiple cards like myself, because I'm planning what is this category, what's my percent back on it, and how am I using that.
Yeah.
So 10K grocery spend, because this will play out in a future an example in a sec. With the Delta card, I'm at 73,000 miles. With the American Express, I'm at essentially 106,000 points now. And I'll play that out in a future example for you. But just on that alone, the 4X grocery spend on that American Express Gold's a great category.
That's not Delta, though. That's
not Delta. It's American Express points, which I'll get to.
Okay. All right, so then that leads into points and miles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So now, like, the whole concept would be like, how do I get 2 cents back or 2% back per point when I'm redeeming these? So again, in many cases, each point is valued. In a lot of cases, you can actually redeem your points for 1 cent. So if I had, if I had 10,000 miles, I could redeem that, essentially for $100 in most cases. A lot of banks will even allow you to do that. So that's getting 1% back. The whole goal of this would, how do I be able to get more than 2% back? So I'll give you just I think this is important. I think for financial people who would listen to this podcast, this is kind of like this concept of transferable currency. There's what we call transferable points currency. So that's American Express, that's Capital One, that's there's new things to the game called Bilt. That's Chase is a very popular transferable currency. There's a whole bunch of these that are called transferable currencies because you can move them to multiple different airlines, hotels, things like that. So think about it this way. It's like having a universal currency that you could, if the dollar's down, you could get more dollars. If the yen's down, you could get more dollars. If the euro's up, well, I don't want to trade for euros right now because they're up. I want to wait till the euro comes down and then I'm going to move this currency.
Okay.
In the point system, it's the exact same way. When you're locked into Delta miles, the only thing you can redeem those Delta miles for is Delta.
And that's not transferable to
Not transferable,
else.
right? So
That's me.
Yeah. So the catch, so you are locked into only being able to fly Delta.
Yeah.
So now what if I told you, so we ended with 73,000 Delta miles and then the American Express was 106,000 American Express miles. What if I told you could move those American Express miles to Delta?
That'd be sweet.
Right. So you actually had 30,000 more miles by using the Amex Gold card because you used it on dining and groceries, two very spendable categories. And you can actually transfer your American Express points to Delta. They are transfer partners with Delta, so you can move those. So
It's just one way, though.
Well, you would move them from, you can't move them from Delta to American Express, correct.
Okay.
It's a one-way transfer. So I think this is, there's this whole concept, I'll give you one little plug. It's why in the points enthusiast community, like there's this element of like Hyatt and why Hyatt becomes a really popular hotel brand. And it's because Hyatt points are consistently worth by themselves over 2 cents per dollar. And then you can actually get Chase points as a transferable currency. And there's multitudes of ways to get Chase. Chase is a lot of credit cards that get you 1.5% back, 3% back, more than that. So what people do very consistently is they'll earn their Chase points, they'll move them or transfer them to Hyatt, and then they'll use it because Hyatt has great redemptions. So you'll hear in this community a lot of people love Hyatt for that reason, but it's only because they get into this concept of transferable currency and Chase transferring to Hyatt. And the last one, I think this airline one's because it's one that I just did recently because I want people to understand a little bit of the power of this. So I'm always looking for flights. I'm always looking for deals. So I pulled up, and I could always put this in, but there was a Delta flight to, other weird thing, I can't get into this. A lot of people in the Points Miles community book one-way flights. It gives you more flexibility. Long story, but we won't go down that. But a one-way flight to Germany, for example, this summer, peak of the season, all that kind of stuff on Delta would normally be in like coach around like $900. Okay, so that same thing on Delta redemption would be 83,000 miles. So our 73,000 miles, we don't even have enough for that yet.
Yeah.
Here's the beauty in all this. Each of the airlines have partners, okay? So they have partners in this whole transferable currency. So Delta is a partner with Virgin, okay? So they partner with Virgin Airlines. So they have different offers they have all the time. So what I did for me and my family this summer is I transferred my American Express points to Virgin Airlines. And guess how much Virgin was charging for a flat first class seat?
I don't know.
They were charging 50,000 miles per person.
And you got the kids on that.
So I got 3 first class tickets
Wow.
for 150,000 points.
Wow.
That is very easy to get. And that flight retail for a first class one-way ticket costs $4,500. So like on that redemption, I would have been getting 9 cents per point in redemption, whereas Delta, that would have cost me 318,000 miles for one.
Yeah.
I got 3 for 150 American Express points.
Wow.
So this is just one example about how the transferable currency allows you to move into different things. So the first concept, we're trying to get 2 cents per back, then cents per point back, and then we're trying to get over 2 cents per point when we're redeeming. It's not always perfect, and sometimes people get too locked into that, but it's a good general rule of thumb to see if you're close to it to maximizing the hobby.
But so on this example, you had the bonus miles, so you had a huge, like 11 cents or something
Yeah.
per per point, or when you spend.
Yeah.
And then you did this for 150,000 points, and it would have been 300 and some. So, I mean, what is that, like 4x on the
Yeah.
on the redemption?
I did it for 2 just because I didn't know I was going to bring Ava and her ticket and my actual, but I did it for 2 because in this concept we earned 106,000 American Express points. We spent $16,000 to get that 106,000, and that would have bought me $9,000 of flights. So $16,000 to get $9,000 worth of flights.
Yeah, and the 16 you're going to spend the money anyway. So
Again,
Yeah.
not debt.
Right,
Not
yeah.
back to the original
Yeah,
disclaimers
yes.
and concepts.
That's
This is
fantastic.
money on gas, groceries, dining that I would have been spending anyway. I'm just trying to earn the max amount for points, and then you start to learn the strategies of how to redeem the points, and the transferable currency concept is what unlocks a lot of that.
So most people are just doing a 1% back, and then they're redeeming for 1%, and so the credit card company wins, right?
In
this
because
case,
they're charging more than 1%. In most cases, they're charging 2 to 3.
yeah, right, to the vendor.
Yeah.
So in your case, right, you're really gaming the system. I don't know who loses, but you win.
And again, I hate to say it like this because I don't want, there's a lot of places, a lot of resources to help people experiencing credit card debt, and there is. The reality is what's paying for a lot of this is people in debt.
Well, that could be true, but also
Credit
it's
card
straight up
companies
3%,
and they're making money.
service charges.
Yeah, they're making
Right.
tons of money.
Yeah.
Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Credit card companies, if you listen to their earnings announcements, they're making
Yeah.
a lot of money too.
All right, let me play devil's advocate for
Yeah,
a
go.
second, okay? So for a few years, I've had this card, the Alliant Credit Union card,
Yeah.
which pays 2.5% cash back up to $10,000 per month. So if you just want cash back, that one I think has the best rate, as far as I can tell. And so that would be $10,000 a month. You're getting $250
Yeah.
each month.
Yeah.
That's cash money, tax free.
Yep.
Right. So that hits your 2% goal, right?
Yeah.
Of
Earning over
of
2%.
earning.
Yep, 100%.
And then you just have the money, so then it's just 1x.
Yeah.
So you're not getting that backside, right, opportunity like the game theory that you're making here. So it's hitting the first, but not the second.
Yep.
Okay. So is it better to have the cash, or is it better to have the points?
Well, again, so that would be in most cases, if you think about, that was an extreme example because it was using, but I was getting 9 cents back per point on the redemption. So the whole part, though, is I'd much rather, again, this is turned into a hobby, and I like it, and it's fun, and it's allowed me to do a lot of different travel things with my family I never thought was possible. So I like it. But I'd much rather have somebody just tell me that strategy than just swiping cards aimlessly and not actually thinking about what they're earning back. They're a great paying customer, and I just want to make sure they understand how to maximize their dollars that they're spending.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, to me, that's a much better strategy than earning the 1% back.
Yeah.
And,
right.
and sometimes people are earning 1% back and then cashing out those for 1%. That's like the worst equation you could get. Or they're buying it for like Apple products, and it's like you just got like a terrible redemption value.
All right, so let's why is that what could they do better if they wanted to buy this Apple product? Is there a better way, a different retailer to go to?
Yeah.
Do they need to go to Best Buy instead of Apple? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, again, that's just where I'm trying to make sure people are thinking about it. How much am I getting for my point? And if you're getting less than 1 cent, well, that's horrible because you can cash out for a cent. Most banks will allow you to cash these things out for 1 cent per point, essentially. So you're getting so in terms of the Apple headphones, let's say it's a $100 Apple product, but you're using 15,000 points or miles to redeem it. That's a horrible redemption. That's less than 1 cent per point. You could go buy the Apple. You could cash out your miles for $150. You could go buy the Apple headphones for that. So that's where I'd say some of what I'm trying to teach is how you. It would even apply if you're cashing out. If you're earning more than 2% and then trying to redeem for more than 2 cents, it still makes sense.
Can I ask you about the Delta cards?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I signed up for, I call it the Barney card. It's the reserve one, the purple one,
Yeah.
okay? So it comes with this high annual expense.
Yep.
But you get like 100,000 bonus miles.
Yep.
You get, you get the MQD, which is what you need on Delta to get the status. Like you get into the Sky Club. Like at some point you get every flight is upgraded to Comfort Plus guaranteed, plus a bunch of other first class upgrades that you can get. you know, you get vouchers, companion certificates. You get like the President's Club with Hertz if you're renting cars. When you're redeeming, you get 15% off. Like if the flight's 100,000 miles, it's automatically 85,000 miles. So how do you feel about the Delta ecosystem if you're kind of trapped, which I am right now?
Same. So let me first say, okay, so I have, in our family, we actually have 3 Delta cards. Jen and I both have the Reserve, and Jen has a Platinum still.
So you're paying for the Reserve, which is like probably the most expensive one out there. So you feel like it's worth it?
All right, I do, and I'll tell you, I know this one off memory. I wasn't even prepared for this, Nick. So, so again, they just raised. There's a couple things. So this is one of my easy to execute strategies. Anytime you have a card, you need to know the benefits that are associated with card. You did a really good job there. But they even launched some new ones that people aren't even aware of when they raise the annual fee. So number one, as a Delta Reserve card holder, you get $200 every year towards a hotel. So all you need to do is go to the Delta Stays site. You need to book a stay 1 night, 2 night, whatever you want that's close to $200, and they will immediately credit you that $200 back on your statement. So the $650 fee, now I already got that down to $450.
And it's booked through the Delta Stays website.
Delta Stays website, so you don't experience status, but it's great for 1 night stays, places that don't have a Marriott, Hilton, places like that. We just use it a weekend.
I'm going to pick up my kid this weekend in Wisconsin, and I'm pretty sure we booked it directly with Holiday Inn.
Yeah, so you could cancel that if it's cancelable. Go to Delta Stays, book it through there, and you'll get $200 off. It'll show up as a statement credit.
Excellent.
So that takes your $650 down to $450 immediately.
This is the value that we're providing you guys.
Okay, so next, with the Reserve, they now instituted $20 Resi credits. So we could look it up right now. Rockies, I think in Northville, there's J. Alexander's. They're all Resi restaurants. So if you went to there for lunch, every month you get $20 as a credit to your bill if you go to a Resi restaurant. Download the Resi app, dine there once a month, you get that credit. There's months I haven't been able to be able to make it. I take all 3 cards. I buy a $50 gift card. I get a $50 gift card, $50 credit, and I take advantage of that benefit with my card.
Wait, is it $20 per month?
On the Reserve, it's $20. On the Platinum, so I have 2 Reserves and 1 Platinum. So that's, for me, $50 that I'm making sure I'm maximizing each month.
Wow. Never heard of that one.
There's also an Uber credit that you get an experience every month on that. That's another new benefit. So that's another, I think that one's either $120 or $240 for the year. Let's say it's $120 in terms of underchanging. But we got $200 on the hotel, $240 on Resi, another $120 there. You talked about the companion certificate.
Yeah, that's worth $500 or $1,000.
1 free flight per year. And then again, on top of that, the 15% back, the all the other things you talked about. You get into the lounges,
Sky Club,
all that.
Yeah.
So I hold the Delta Reserve because the card actually pays me if I take advantage of all the benefits. The card pays me the $650 fees, nothing.
Yeah, I agree. That's how I feel about it. I call it the Barney card because it's purple.
It is purple, yeah.
Okay, so what about hotels?
Okay. Yeah, this is a really easy one. This is one I actually help Jim with too. Like all of us in many cases are staying at hotels. We do the randomness of where we go. Yeah. There's really great hotels out there that have great credit cards that for $100 at minimum you're getting 1 free night per year. So think about it. If you are for sure, traveling and staying even in 2 or 3 hotels in a year, I would just tell you to be loyal to a brand. Pick that brand, get their co-branded credit card, because to the whole concept of earning more than 1 cent back or 2 cents back per point, when you charge something at the card and if you're or at the hotel and you're paying for the hotel, many of these cases they give you 12, 13, 14% back depending on which card it is at the hotel. So I'm getting a way huger amount back per point by using the hotel credit card when I'm paying for it at the hotel. But secondarily, they give you a free night certificate. There's no way in this day and age with inflation you're paying anything less than $100 for a hotel.
Not anyone that you'd want to stay.
Right. So you earn a lot more points back when you pay for the stays at the hotel, and then you at minimum are getting $100. So these are all keepers for me. I have a Hilton card, Hyatt card, Wyndham card, IHG card. I have all of them because
the Holiday Inn one is the
IHG.
Yeah. So I have some IHG points, but not the co-branded card.
That's okay.
So you can get that.
Yeah, you can get
enhance.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And again, it's $100 per year, but as long as you use the free night certificate, hotel cards are always a keeper in my wallet because I'm always able to use the free night certificate.
Yeah.
It's always worth the $100.
Yeah.
That's another thing that we're getting into a little bit. People get scared by the annual fees. You just got to realize, am I you getting a benefit over what the fee is? Mm-hmm. So on all those hotel credit cards that are $100, I'm always redeeming those nights and getting my value. So they'll always stay, not figuratively in my wallet, but they'll always stay in my portfolio.
Jim, you've been quiet. What's your strategy over there?
Man, I'm just soaking it all in. But I do think you're right. Like, I mean, the Marriott card alone, the $100 gets you like 35,000 points, which is like a $350 hotel room.
Right.
So it's kind of a no-brainer right there. But yeah, I think, I think the concept, because I think some people are never going to get deep into this rabbit hole and do some of these things. But the low-hanging fruit ideas, I think, are pretty beneficial. So I don't know if you have any other ones of those that you want to share.
Yeah, so the hotel one's a good one. If you even stay at a handful of hotels, 2 or 3 in a year, like Jim was talking about, he started traveling a lot for his daughter's volleyball. So I'm just like, pick a hotel, choose a hotel system, and he chose Marriott, and then again, he's gotten a lot more points back for that. The other one, this one, this is a very common mistake. It ties into points and miles a little bit, and I'll explain that, but it's more just about cash back. It's about websites, and there's so many shopping portals out there. So there's the Capital One shopping portal, there's Ibotta, there's Upside for Gas, which everybody thinks is a scam. It's actually not a scam. There's all these things where you can get legitimate cash back, and I'm happy to help anybody out with these different things. But the one that I really love tied to the American Express example is this one called Rakuten. So an example is we have 3 trips this summer. We've got Dublin, we've got Grenada, and we've got Germany. So all 3, June, July, August. And again, I booked our tours through Vider. And you could just go right to Vider's site. They show all the different places out there that you can, or different activities that they have at these websites. But if I go directly to Vider, I'm not getting any money back. If I go to the Vider website through this thing called Rakuten, I get 20% back. So let's say I book a $200, excursion. If I went right through Vider, that's $200. I go through Rakuten, they were offering a promo where I got 20% back. So I'm getting $40 back on that trip. The great thing about Rakuten allows you to earn your points or cash back in American Express miles. American Express point is worth more than a cent. It's worth about a cent and a half, almost 2 cents at times. So I'm actually taking my cash back in American Express miles. So I got, instead of $40, I got 4,000 points. And as I showed, 4,000 points could be really valuable. So there's all these sites out there. Never go through Nike Direct, Target Direct. The only one, Amazon doesn't need those sites, so they don't use it. But every website uses one of these shopping portals. If you're buying something through a company, go through one of these sites and at minimum get cash back.
Rakuten.
Yep. Rakuten.
Just look at the Golden State Warriors jerseys. It's printed right on their jersey.
Yeah.
I haven't really been watching.
It's a genius. They're a genius company, and it's really smart what they're doing.
Okay.
And actually, they even have something right now where you can get $30 back. There's always referral codes for stuff like that if anybody needs a referral.
So here's one more question. So, if you're staying in a Marriott or a Hilton or a Hyatt, it's a kind of a no-brainer to use their card
100%.
at that one, right? But or the other, you mentioned the American Express, if you're shopping or dining out or whatever, right?
Yep.
But what if you're just everyday purchases? Are you constantly thinking, hey, this card's better for gas, this one's better for
groceries,
whatever.
Yeah,
groceries.
that's a great question. There's some really, I'm at the point where I can do that, and I have different cards for different things. I even have stickers on them. It's dorky, I know, but that's all right. But there's really great cards out there that are consistent 2% cash back. There's the Venture and the Venture X. These are 2 cards through Capital One. They earn you 2% back on everything. So somebody who's trying to get into the hobby and just trying to play it easy, that's a transferable currency that everything you swipe, you're at minimum getting 2% back on. Mm-hmm. And then you can still have that transferable to all the different airlines, hotels, etc. All that kind of stuff. So there are some easy cards. Citi has one called Double Cash. You get 1% when you spend, 1% when you pay off your bill. So for those, again, paying their bill off timely, it's 2% consistently.
Do the Capital One points transfer to Delta?
Capital One does not do to Delta.
Okay.
That's there's charts out there about who transfers to who, and there's some programs that transfer to everybody. There's some that don't.
See, I've had a Capital One card before in the past, and I connected it to Amazon, and it was less than $1,
Right.
and I was like, this is not that great. But I was actually having a hard time figuring out what to do with those points.
Yeah, and that's where there's a lot of, again, one, I'm happy to help out anybody. If any of you, the listeners or any of your clients, I like helping people on this. It's again, I just talked about 3 trips that are lifetime trips for people that it's allowed me to do. So I'm always happy to help people. But that's where, there's like different matrices that show you who you can transfer to. But like 2 ones for Delta fans that all the credit cards can transfer to is Flying Blue, so Air France, and then Virgin. And they're all partners. So let's go back to this Germany flight that I talked about. That is a Delta flight that I just booked through Virgin.
Yeah.
It's actually, I don't have my phone on me. It's actually in my Delta app. I was able to change it, put my Delta number on. It shows me in my Delta app because they're all partners. They're all part of
Like
the Sky.
KLM.
Yep, they're all part of the Sky Team Alliance. Okay. So even for that stuff, as you start to know transfer partners and who works together and who's on the same like team, you can find ways to work around it.
Are you going to be a travel agent?
I don't know. I don't know. What was I say? There was only one other thing I would say. Digital coupons. A lot of people don't know that. Download your credit card app, and then anytime you're buying something, in many cases they have $50, 10, 15% back offers. Like in my American Express card this year, alone I've already saved $610 just for like before I buy something. I just check on the app to see if there's a digital coupon for it. So download the apps. There's an offers tab on almost every credit card, and you can essentially clip digital coupons.
Wow.
Yeah, there's ways to like quadruple and triple dip. Let's say there was a coupon through Amex, and I went through Rakuten. So I go through Rakuten, I get 20% back, I clip the coupon through my Amex card, that gives me $50 back, and then I'm getting 4% back on that card. It's like a triple stack where it's just like, oh my gosh, how did this just happen?
And I imagine if you take all these savings and then invest the money, it could be worth millions of dollars someday.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah. Again, this is not. He said, "We'll, maybe talk about it a little later." Again, I've been very fortunate financially and done a lot of practices. This is not eroding at my savings. This is not changing any of my monthly, weekly contributions. In fact, I just had Jim. I got a little bit of a inflation raise, and I had Jim increase my monthly contribution because it didn't allow lifestyle creep to come in. So this is not anything to take away from that.
Perfect. Well, Evan, the points enthusiast community president. You wanna give him that?
Sure.
That
Anything that's not trademarked.
Evan, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.